We did a piece on this show yesterday about the gender pay gap, in which I said, as a woman, I find the gender pay gap narrative coming from the left to be insulting to women, because it's a lie. The left tells me because of my genitalia, I earn less. But that's not true. Statistics show the gender pay gap is not because sexist men discriminate against women based on our gender. The gender pay gap is because men and women make different choices in our lives and our careers, and those different choices eventually inform salary and income. But Democrats ignore those stats, telling us that we women are being oppressed to scare women into voting Democrat. That is insulting. So after we did this segment, a feminist on Twitter challenged me. She said, "What evidence is there that outside of childbearing and child-rearing responsibilities, women choose to work less than men? As for careers, what about evidence that traditionally female-dominated roles are paid less on average, but when men enter, those roles are worth more?" This is a great question. I'm glad she asked for evidence. So this study by 2 Harvard economists shows that women take 48% more unpaid hours off than men. Women work 83% fewer overtime hours every year than men, and men accept twice the amount of last-minute unscheduled overtime hours compared to women. Then we have the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Data from them also shows that women who work full-time work 2 hours less per week than men who work full-time. An economic research organization in the UK conducted a study and found that women choose a shorter commute time, a lot of times to prioritize family, versus a job further away that has a higher salary. In addition, a Glassdoor survey asked men and women what factors they prioritize in a job. The study found that women prioritize work-life balance, flexible work arrangements, and shorter commutes, while men prioritize financial success and the employer's financial performance. So that right there, that's some of the evidence that women choose to work less than men. So the feminist on Twitter responded and she said to me, "All right, this is all fair, but it seems that you would agree that the factors you listed are all, or nearly all, with some ambiguity related to prioritizing family. Is that accurate?" Well, many, yes. Also, innate differences between men and women. Women are typically more relational and nurturing, men are more analytical, etc., which informs our career choices and our lifestyle choices, our priorities. If it is, she says, do you think that all women, or even most women, would make the same choices if A, they had enough resources to prioritize career without detriment to family, and or B, absent societal pressures or literal necessity of being the primary caregiver? So the answer to this is yes. Statistics from a Gallup poll show that the majority of women prefer to stay home with their children versus working outside the home. This is not coerced, it's a preference. That preference, of course, factors into career trajectory and salary. Or you can look at Sweden. They have a sprawling welfare state with all the government benefits that you're talking about, paid time off, childcare, resources, and yet women there still choose to stay home with their kids at much higher rates than men do. But of course, now we're not talking about institutional sexism being the driving force behind the gender pay gap. We're talking about the differences between men and women. And this rounds us back to my original point. This is why the gender pay gap narrative from the left is so insulting to women. Don't you believe it's fundamentally anti-woman to shame women for their career preferences, like preferring to stay home with their children, just because those choices differ from men's preferences? Or worse, how fundamentally anti-woman is it to tell women they are paid less because of sexism, which is false, as a political ploy? I've said this before and I'll say it again. Show me evidence that sexism and not life choices are the reason behind the gender pay gap. If there's proof, I'm right next to you decrying it. But I haven't seen proof. What I have seen is Democrats lying to women to manipulate us into voting for them based on a lie. And that's my final point.